Ready? I'm gonna do the Wayne's World. Ready?
Okay.
5, 4. Oh shit! But I'm the greetings and salutations and welcome once again to the Capeless Crusaders live at the time via remote contact using wires into the ground through the sky and a hamster tunnel dug between us and Galt, aka the safe house and the Bat Cave. My name is David Barrie at Dr. Barrie on varying social media platforms. I am joined this evening by my brother from a Portuguese mother, none other than
the icon, Mr. Wrestlemania, the Azorean One, Anthony Esteves.
There it is. Thank you. I appreciate that you were like, for a second, I was like, which one is he gonna do?
Yeah, I know.
Which is he gonna meld?
It was about to be finally, but I'm like, you've played The Rock plenty of times on the show. Let's go, Shawn Michaels.
That's true. As opposed to me being like, I just have one question for the listeners. Are you ready? And everyone's like, yeah, we're kind of, and then I'm not going to do the full. No, are you ready? Because I don't think my mic can handle it right now. I'm not set up for that.
You would do it perfectly. That's why I wouldn't be able to.
And then let's get ready to suck it.
Suck it. Oh God, I miss you.
What you're wondering is, why are they doing a bunch of wrestling shit? Why are they wearing wrestling t-shirts when this is a comic book podcast? Normally, yes, the Capeless Crusaders is a comic book podcast. You would know that if you went to thecapelesscrusaders.com, our home on the internet, where you can catch all of our podcasts, our previous content, as well as the rest of the Nerd On family of podcasts, because we are part of the Nerd On Nation.
Sorry.
Oh, no, we're not. The domination. That being said, today, we got a special opportunity to review a wrestling comic. The two worlds collide. I think that was Worlds Collide? Was that a WCW
Worlds
thing?
Collide. It might have been.
Oh no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not doing Power Man 5000, who we my band opened for back in the day. Anyway, no, we got an opportunity. We were reached out to by the creators of a comic, The Invasion from Planet Wrestletopia. Yes, it is exactly what it sounds like, which is fantastic.
Right up our alley.
We were reached out. They gave us the first 5 issues. Issue 6 is going to be coming out here pretty soon, and they said, "Hey, we would like it, if you could take a look and give us your thoughts." And I was like, "Yes," because funny story. A wrestling podcast that I listened to, I swear they talked about this comic previously. I think they know the creators, and I was like, again, just worlds collide, colliding, whatever it is. So let me give you a quick breakdown of the comic before we talk about where we at. So, Invasion from Planet Wrestletopia. I'm reading this little blurb here because the blurb is very well worded. It's a 6-issue miniseries created and written by Ed. I'm gonna butcher it. It's either Kuehnel or Kuehnel. I'm not sure. And Matt Entin of Suspicious Behavior Productions, the production companies they founded in order to waste money. That's their blurb. I love it. So, the artist Kendall Good, colorist Gio Butler, letterer Sal Cipriano. I'm awful at this. Edited by Brendan White, and production design by Conley Presley and Jimmy Presley. So it's available on Comixology, nerdon.io/Comixology. Ooh,
there you go.
So the description that they sent, the little the hook, if you will, was: when a disgruntled professional wrestler declares himself galactic champion of the universe, a planet of alien wrestlers views it as a declaration of war. This
Perfect.
is
Perfect.
it's when I told Esteves that we were going to do this, I was like, Independence Day meets Wrestlemania.
Exactly
and he's just like,
what it was.
He just gave me a thumbs up, and he's just like, I'm in. So like I said, it's 5 issues are out so far. We got to read the first 5 issues. Issue 6 is coming out. How can I put it? It's a love letter to the 70s and 80s and the beginning of the 90s era of professional wrestling.
Oh yes, absolutely.
It is, if you were ever a fan of NWA, if you were a fan of IWA, Deep South, the territories that existed before the modern wrestling that we have now, For those of you who don't know, the territory wrestling, first off, you can watch Dark Side of the Ring. You'll learn a lot about this, but it also learn a lot of fucked up things about wrestling.
Yeah, there's that too.
So what do you tell me? Steroids and drugs don't make for a happy ending?
What?
Yeah. So before the WWF, now WWE, because they let their copyright lapse and the World Wildlife Foundation got it before they could.
Pandas beat you to it.
Pandas beat you to it, Vince. There existed territories all over the country, actually all over the world, really. They were wrestling territories. They were run by different bookers. Now, a booker is in the kayfabe sense. Kayfabe meaning wrestling is real. Everything you do in the show is real. If you break kayfabe, you're basically breaking this idea that wrestling is real. So the bookers booked the matches by hiring wrestlers, but they would also writing the story in a way. They would tell them how it was going to go. If you were booked to face this person, you were booked to lose the belt. Okay, cool. I'm going to face Esteves, and Esteves is beating me tonight for the championship. And these territories existed, like I said, all over the country, the Bay Area, the Pacific Northwest, a lot of them in the South and on the East Coast, a lot of wrestling territories in there. And what would happen is wrestlers would travel from territory to territory, and each one had their own star. And that star could go to other territories. And if you didn't have television, if you weren't a company that recorded a television show, you could basically put on the same show, have the wrestlers do different characters, be different things, and no one questioned it because there wasn't the internet, there wasn't TV shows where I'm like, wait, why is Hulk Hogan the bad guy here but the good guy here? And how did he, wrestle the exact same match 3 nights in a row? Like, you didn't have to worry about that before the internet really became a thing.
Examples of those guys would be like Ric Flair was very popular in the South in the 70s. The Rock's dad, Rocky Johnson, he traveled all over different territories, and his tag team partner, Tony Atlas.
Macho Man Randy Savage. The Rock's cousins, the Wild Samoans.
Yep.
So, and Mexico and Japan and the UK also had their own wrestling territories. But what would happen is, especially later on, Vince McMahon, head of the WWF, now WWE, basically started bringing all these guys together. He grabbed the top guys from each of those territories and functionally killed them by poaching them. He brought all the best. He brought the Randy Savages. He brought the Soul Man Rocky Johnsons. He brought the Von Erichs. He brought them all together, put them all in one place, which is why you just have this amalgamation of all this talent. So back to the task at hand. So that era, basically before WWF became the only name in town, is kind of where this comic starts taking place. We meet our main character, who's kind of a
Rory.
Yeah, he's kind of a how would you describe him, like, as far as like wrestlers that like
there's some rock in there.
Little bit, yeah.
There's rock, and the rhyming he was doing reminded me of what Ric Flair would do, the jet flying, limousine driving. He was doing that rhyme.
And he's got like the sunglasses and the fur on the coat and everything.
But it was like a long hair. Like, he had long hair going. It was Rock, Ric Flair, and I'd say a little. I wouldn't say Macho Man. Maybe.
He kind of had a little bit of everybody.
Yeah,
in a way. So his name is Rory Landell. First off, I love the first line when you meet him in St. Paul. Listen up, Girl Scout. Rory Landell's on a mission in perfect condition. I was like, yes. I was already sold on this comic.
Already got the 80s rhyming.
Already got the 80s, the classic promo. I got Fists of Plutonium. I got the Fans of Pandemonium. I was
the over the top promos.
Yes, I was all about it. So you meet Rory, who is the top heel of this territory. So he's the main bad guy. And basically he is scheduled to win the title belt that night. And what comes to pass is the booker basically tells him, no, like, our ratings are up right now. We're trying to go a little more PG, which is actually kind of the way Vince McMahon eventually took wrestling. But hey, we don't want the bad guy to win. We want the good guy to win. So the good guy's going to keep the belt. And that pisses off Rory. And so Rory cuts this amazing promo where he basically declares himself the intergalactic champion of the universe. He's not just the world champion. He doesn't care about the world championship anymore. He's the intergalactic champion. From there, that's
walks out.
Yeah, he walks out. But that TV signal bounces for years, for 15 years, and eventually is picked up by an alien ship. And that alien,
I was laughing at this reveal so hard.
Yeah, when he's like, come in, brother. It was and basically what we come to find out is there is a planet of alien wrestlers, and they are ruled by the champion of the universe, Manifest Destiny.
Manifest Destiny.
And he is livid that a human has declared himself the intergalactic champion. So now they're going to invade Earth.
When I read the where he announces his name, I couldn't help but have Chris Sullivan's Taserface voice in my ear.
Taserface,
Manifest Destiny.
When he's wearing the metal mask and everything,
it's metaphorical. No.
So the story then goes on from there with Rory being a washed up wrestler who's drunk and doing these crappy matches. And the aliens have come now to Earth to find him. They put a steel cage around the planet, and they are trying to find him.
You've been challenged.
The aliens are every good 80s wrestling stereotype. There's a green-skinned communist wrestler. He's wearing a singlet with a hammer and sickle on it, and he speaks in Russian accent. He says,
why we...
Exactly.
He might go.
Yeah, he's like, where'd he go? We go find him.
Like, we find him now.
They got this like classic, like stereotypical communist character. You have like the pretty boy wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
You got the Ric Flairs. You have the mean monsters in the mass. You have the female dominatrix wrestler.
Who I was thinking, I saw her. I thought of a mix between. Oh, why am I forgetting her name now? The female wrestler who had her side shaved, blonde hair.
With the veins and everything.
Yes.
Literally, as you said that, I see her, and then her name left my
name
brain.
Goes away.
Her Medusa.
I think it was. I thought a mix of her with Bridget Nielsen, who was in Rocky IV, who was Drago's wife. I thought of a mix of those two together. Was she with Macho Man at first? When she first came out?
At one point. No, wait, I'm sorry. Medusa, different wrestler. Luna Vachon.
Luna, thank you.
Yes. And she was with Randy Savage. Oh no, she was with Bam Bam.
Bam Bam, that's right.
Bigelow, because they both had she had the veins and he had the flames tattooed on his head.
Yes, Luna.
Yes. You're thinking of Sensational Sherry, who also had.
Yes.
Yeah, and she was with Randy Savage.
Mm-hmm, that's right.
This is the problem. I knew we would just start talking about wrestling. So the like I said, the aliens are all these different classic wrestling stereotypes, and basically they all fight using wrestling moves. Yes. It's phenomenal. It's first off, let's talk about like the basics. The artwork is beautiful. Like it's fun, it's bright, it tells the story well. The artist is really good at showing the motion. Like I knew every move they were doing. Mm-hmm. When the guy is suplexing the camel, or no, he's got the camel at a torture rack and he's like angle slamming him in the desert. I'm like, I knew exactly what he was doing.
It reminded me like the 80s cartoons for the 80s era of wrestling. Those cartoons they had of Hogan, and it had that same style to it.
Where they have like the Secret Service and like a figure four leg lock and like a Boston Crab, you know, like they're doing all these wrestling moves. So clearly the creators of this comic clearly just wrestling fans, like out the wazoo. Like they get it's like if Hulk Hogan and all those superstars of Saturday morning wrestling were shot into space and started an alien race, you know,
this is them
of wrestlers.
Yep.
And the story is it's fun. It's a little bit of the redemption arc, because we've gotten these stories. I've read comics like this before, darker ones, where it focuses on the burnt out wrestler, and it focuses on that part of your life where everything hurts. You know, your muscle, your knee pops, everything cracks. You got to get drunk to get into the ring.
Mickey Rourke's character in The Wrestler.
Exactly. You're falling all over the place. He's basically doing like these dinner matches where he wrestles a little person and he gets beaten by the little person and he fucks up and falls out of the ring. Like,
yep.
He's doing these, it's just to make a buck kind of a thing. And his manager was supposed to retire so long ago, but because he quit the company, the manager went with him and he had to keep working. You see these like stories of how these wrestlers, some of them are made for life. You know, some of them get out when they should.
Yep.
You're wearing the shirt of Shawn Michaels, who he got out before he couldn't walk anymore. You know, we have you hear about guys like Jake the Snake and Razor Ramon and wheelchair bound alcoholic drug usage. Like DDP saved both of those guys, by the way. Those are fun documentaries. When I say fun, I mean powerful, not like
yeah.
But you hear about these guys, you know, who go on to, I mean, it's taking this a completely very dark direction, to go on to kill themselves, kill their families. Chris Benoit, the heart failure, Eddie Guerrero.
Dies soon. China who died very early.
The have you watched The Dark Side of the Ring yet?
I haven't. I need to.
The Benoit is a 2-parter and it covers Eddie Guerrero. I didn't know that Eddie basically died in Chavo's arms. Like Chavo was holding him as he died. His nephew, for those of you who don't know. It was so, but like, you hear these terrible stories, the concussions, the drug usage. And some of these dudes, they do get out. The Rock got out and he's in the best shape. He keeps getting in better shape and he's very successful, and he doesn't need to run his body ragged like a lot of these guys did and still do. You know, there's some guys that once they leave the WWE, the only thing they can keep doing is doing these indie shows, and they can make money.
It's all they know. It's
exactly.
home. It's home to them.
It's the career the only career. If you make it as a wrestler, what else can you really do? I mean, yeah, you can act, you could personal train, but it's like you want to be a fucking wrestler.
It's an entertainment factor. You want to entertain. You want to go out there and put on the show the way you know how. And the sad part about it is, the minds can do it forever, but the bodies can't do it forever.
Which is why you get guys like is it Boogie Woogie? Or is it Boogie Woogie? The Jimmy Valiant, who he's like, I think he's in his 80s now, at least late 70s, and long beard. Like, he goes to the ring, he mainly does tag matches, and he maybe comes in and does like 1 or 2 moves. And then he jumps back out because he's ancient, but he can cut the promos. He's still sharp there. He's entertaining as fuck. So it's like you get that this guy was Rory, back to the comic. He was a big deal. He's the big heel in this territory, and then he burns all the bridges in every territory that he goes to, and he just keeps fucking up because he feels like he was screwed over, and he just keeps fucking up. But this is all he can do, and he's running out of connections, and he's trying to go to the last place that'll let him wrestle.
I liked, when talking about the artwork and everything and the characters, I liked the little touch they had on his manager, how he says he's been this Asian character, and he's not even Asian, he's Hawaiian.
He's Hawaiian.
That's Yokozuna. Yokozuna was playing a Japanese character. The dude was Samoan. He's part of Rock's family too. The guy had no Japanese history.
It's not, there have been Samoan Yokozunas.
Exactly.
He was not.
He was not. Not at all.
He was just a big ass guy, and they're like, let's make him a sumo.
Exactly. And then the playing of stereotypes were like, you know, if you're Samoan, you've got to be this wild Samoan beast out of nowhere.
The monster animal.
Like we had a 3-minute warning, Rosie and Jamal. And that was a great angle, but Rosie ended up having to turn and become Umaga, which was what? A Samoan beast.
Yeah, with the braids, and he'd have the makeup, and he'd come and attack you with his thumb.
Which is what I respect for the Usos right now, how they are still... They're not like hiding the Samoan ancestry, but they're more true to who they are. They're from the Bay Area.
They didn't stay in that, okay, you have to always wear the makeup. You have to always wear like you have the tattoos, but you are you guys, but you know your heritage.
Exactly. You know? They have the blend of there being Samoan and they're Bay Area guys. So you get that mix of it there, which is the one thing you can say as time's gone on in wrestling is where, at least in some cases, it's less of that heritage culture stereotype, although it still pokes its head somewhere in some ways.
The Kabuki Warriors. It's like, okay, what can you do? What else can you do with Japanese wrestlers? Kabuki.
Right.
It's one of those things where like their heritage, like especially like luchadors and stuff like that, like they like that like character and that like celebrating their culture is very important. But then it's like, okay, how can we? And maybe they were involved in this, and maybe they weren't. When you had like Super Crazy and not Chavo. What's the other Guerrero? Shit. Juventud.
Yes, thank you.
Juventud, Guerrero, and Guerrera, actually. Juventud, Super Crazy, and Psychosis. And they come to the WWF, and it's like, what are they going to be? They're going to be the Mexicools. We're going to have them ride lawnmowers. And it's like,
yeah.
Okay,
thanks.
Was that their idea, or was that someone being like, they're Mexicans? Right. Like, it's
like
wrestling.
At least like Eddie Guerrero, there was one where he had that stereotype, but he played it so well with his character.
Yeah, he didn't. He played like he shared his heritage, but it wasn't like, all right, man, like you're gonna wear a sombrero and come out to the ring.
You could
sometimes
tell,
he would in a fun way.
Yeah, you could tell he was the one behind a lot of those creative angles, not someone telling him to do this.
Exactly. Then you have guys like the Godfather, who you went from he was Papa Shango, so wore a top hat and his face was painted a skull and he did voodoo, and then he was the Godfather, so he was a pimp.
Yeah, right.
And it's just like, hey, what other stereotypes can we put this guy in? And there was sometimes especially in the 80s, like when you had like the Russian bad guy and the all-American good guy, like it didn't quite feel like you were grinding in like as much racism, but then you realize it's all there.
It's all right there.
So yeah, you had that. You had his manager in the comic who was
playing a heritage that he's not.
A Hawaiian guy playing an Asian guy, and he would do the super like stereotypical like Asian accent and stuff, and with the Fu Manchu, and he was the evil Chinese guy. Like that was they touch on how how the 80s were kind of. It's people, I know people like to be like, oh, we're so PC and sensitive now, and it's like maybe we should be about some of these things. I mean, like maybe this is a time where it's like, yeah, well, just because someone's from Southeast Asia doesn't mean they're going to strap a bomb to themselves
exactly,
and be a terrorist wrestler. But we still did that. Iron Hussein. When Iran is like, let's get together with Russia and we'll have our greatest wrestlers again. Iron Hussein. I'm like, okay.
Remember? Was it Muhammad Hassan?
Yeah.
When it was like just a few years after 9/11, and they had him, and he's the heel character,
and his manager would come out and yell in Arabic.
Yes. When they got the Undertaker and he had his masked posse.
Oh no, and he had like the terrorist. But that was even worse. Is it was just after the train. I think it was the bombing.
After the train bombing, yeah.
It was like that. It was like the 2 days later,
and it was like they had Taker on his knees, which it kind of resembled like a beheading. Even though what they did was they just like put him to sleep or kicked him in the head.
Yeah, and then they like carried him out. Like.
And how quickly they killed off that character when Taker gives him the last ride off the rampway and just shows his body. You never saw that guy again. He never came back into wrestling.
Yeah.
They killed his character like crazy.
Yeah. When it's just the it's like the stereotypes. It's very easy to build a character around stereotypes, and it's very easy to get cheap heat. And then
what else can you do?
It's so shitty. There's no depth to it. Yeah. Zero creativity. Like some of these characters, like they work so long, like a character like The Rock. What was The Rock's like initially? Yeah, he was. He was kind of had the island thing.
They tried. Yeah, he was Flex Cavana, and then became Rocky Maivia, who came out with the colorful stuff and everything
with the tassels. And then he was part of the Nation of Domination, which was the kind of like the Black Panther-esque kind of thing. And then he broke off, and it was just it wasn't about it wasn't about a black stereotype. It wasn't about a Samoan stereotype. It was The Rock being the people's champion. He carved this character out of marble. No pun intended with him being The Rock. And he just created this character that kind of transcended all the stereotypes that they tried to use for him initially. And this comic, the way it deals again with the stereotypes that they were having to deal with, the female wrestlers, the way they were treated, his love interest, the way she basically says, I was loving getting groped by onion farmers for $50 a night. Like they while the comic is fun and bright and colorful, it also deals with some of that darker parts of the world of wrestling
that you didn't see, stuff that would happen in house shows or wasn't televised.
Yeah, and again, the drug and the alcohol, and the breaking down of their body, but also the way they get screwed, the way they get thrown out, the way they get fired by organizations, the way they get treated.
But it's almost like we're done with you.
Exactly, but it's almost like they then meet these aliens from a planet where like they would have been revered, because it's like on this planet, everyone's a wrestler, and like they have the intergalactic champion and they're ruled by him. And so it's this cool, like, real view of 80s wrestling and the way wrestlers' lives go to, holy shit, by the way, we're now being invaded by aliens and they want to wrestle you because they want to unify the belts. And also, let's talk about the jargon. All the wrestling jargon that's in here. At one point, there's a scene where the crowd is cheering, and you see the crowd go, ooh, ah, marking out. Like,
Marking out, yes.
Like there's all these like terms, like kind of like behind the scenes terms, especially the way everyone calls each other brother.
Mm-hmm.
All the aliens call each other
place.
brother.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's you have all that, and then you have these fun like tidbits of like wrestling like lingo just thrown in throughout the whole series.
And then I felt like there's elements like you get like the 80s sci-fi or 80s fantasy, where like I think it was issue 3 or 4 where it felt like it was like a Day of the Dead type scene where they're running away from all the wrestlers chasing after them.
Yeah,
it's like a John Carpenter flick where they're just getting away from the scary monsters who just are wrestlers, of course. So like it kind of blended in that 80s genre of fantasy sci-fi,
and it's in like they're in like that rundown like water park,
Yes.
and like the wrestlers like are all like green and pink like neon, and they pop out of the water. Like it deals that whole gamut right there of the 80s, late 70s into the 80s and 90s are just awesome.
Yeah.
Like it was the story is easy to get into, even if you don't like wrestling, even if you don't know a lot about wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you have to know about the territories and kayfabe and all of that. Like if you have any passing knowledge of professional wrestling, which most people do, they're just you'll enjoy it.
And you'll get it where it shows where he goes to another territory where it's not as well off as the territory he was at before. And
exactly,
it'll click for you as you go through that.
Yeah, but then it's also just this cool like sci-fi story, this cool redemption, at least we think, redemption arc coming with a a nice peyote driven vision quest of sorts for him to beat his issues and his alcoholism and to hopefully become a better wrestler again.
So the question for you, the promoter in the beginning that we see later on, did you hear Vince's voice when he talked? Because I did.
Yeah,
I gave him Vince's voice.
I read it and it was just like
you're getting the Vince McMahon voice. I'm giving you a Vince McMahon voice right now.
No, 100%. I was just like, Rory,
you blew off your match, didn't you?
You'll never work in this town again. You're fired.
Like
I definitely pictured. No, I pictured Vince. And it's again, the visually it's poppy, it's colorful, it's fun. The story got like the fun sci-fi wrestling aspect, but also like the dark and the redemption and everything else. I burned through this in like half an hour.
I want it to keep going. I want this issue to the more issues to come out.
We only have one more issue, so I'm really hoping it keeps going from there. Like we get a second part, and some books are meant to be miniseries. They're meant to be 6-issue arcs, and that's it. Does it need a TV show? Does it need a movie? I don't know. It's fucking fun. I'm gonna say
I would love AEW pick this thing up and just try to do something with it.
yeah, something like that. Like and we haven't even fully dealt with the issues of his dad leaving. Like that when it went back all the way to his dad being the wrestler and him living in the trailer park, and
his dad reminded me of Roddy Piper. Like I thought I saw some Roddy Piper poses the way they drew him.
Yeah, and you also, and this is also a cool way to learn a little bit about, especially the way 70s and 80s wrestling, like that's how it was. Like these people were seen as heroes, but a lot of them were underpaid, underappreciated.
Well, yeah,
like
they weren't collecting the paychecks that the big names are collecting now. No.
Well, and just because you had the fur coats and the cars and everything, a lot of it was a show. Some of these guys tried to live that life and they couldn't maintain it, because it was so expensive. But like when a good guy and a bad guy, like in the 80s, 70s and 80s, like good guys and bad guys, like they were separate. Like now they all, travel on the same plane, drive on the same bus because we know that it's, it's fake. But back then, like good guys were good guys. They drove with good guys. They got dressed with good guys. Bad guys were with bad guys.
You lived the act. Like, you had to live the act when you walked out. Yeah.
Kayfabe, brother. That's where it was. So I think it's a really cool look into like the behind the scenes of wrestling a little bit. Also, it's just this amazing, sci-fi elements. Like I'm stoked. I'm glad we got to read it. I'm really appreciative that they threw it to us because it is awesome.
Manifest destiny.
Manifest destiny. So here's what I'm gonna tell you. One, first 5 issues are available on Comixology.
Yeah.
nerdon.io/Comixology.
Ooh.
Go check it out. Go throw some support because I know it's right now. There's also a lot of weird stuff going on with comic book stores, with creators. If you can support creators in any way, checking out this independent comic, especially as it's ramping up to its 6th issue, great idea because it's fun. It's awesome. If you like wrestling, if you like sci-fi, if you like just a good story, a good story that flows. Like it just went. At no point was I like, that kind of, no, it didn't lag. I was just like, cool, I want to know what happens.
Yeah, it's a fast story.
Yep. It's a great pace. So you can get more information about it from starburnsindustries.com/about. You can get more information about them. You can check it out on Comixology. It is Invasion from Planet Wrestletopia. You can't miss it. It's not one of those things where you can mix it up with anything else. It's very unique. Like, you're going to look at the cover and be like, I think this is the one they were talking about.
I think this is it. Yeah.
This could be
I see wrestlers in space.
Who knows? This could be another one. But yeah, so 6-issue mini written by Ed Kuehnel and Matt Entin. Check it out. It's awesome. They do have social media, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook. You can check it out there. Highly recommend it. Get on it.
Oh, yes.
And since it's going to be wrapping up soon, perfect time for you to hop in and get the whole story. You're not waiting on anything. Boom, it's going to be here. So my name is, of course, David Barrie at Dr. Barrie. Across from me, digitally, through wires.
The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. The Azorean One, Anthony Esteves.
Bang, bang. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening to this little bonus episode, by the way, of the Capeless Crusaders. Check out this comic when you get the chance.